stay out sometimes. I apologize. Okay, so hello. Today I'm going to talk about the legalization of marijuana would benefit society. First I'll cover on how marijuana legalization would decrease crime by freeing up police resources for more serious crimes like financial and more financial reasons. Would make it easier or safer to purchase, and would make it less profitable to drug cartels and drug organizations. Second, I'll cover on marijuana legalization would benefit the economy by creating new jobs and new career fields, and it would be regulated and taxed by the government. I'll start with a short statistic. According to a 2006 study in California, growers produced nearly 9 million pounds of marijuana in that year, which is nearly $14 billion, making California the nation's marijuana heartland. That's $14 billion for California, but if you picture it, other states don't trail too far behind us. $14 billion is a lot of money, so it's something that we should take advantage of. As you probably know, there's been a lot of opposition to legalizing marijuana. But today, let's examine how legalizing marijuana would benefit our society. I'll start with marijuana decreasing crime. It would free up financial resources for more serious crimes. Although it's difficult to estimate the exact dollar amount, the Marijuana Policy Project estimates annual marijuana prohibition costs at $2.6 billion in 2007 at the federal level, and $5.3 billion at the state level, which adds up to approximately $8 billion a year. Those $8 billion, although if they were allocated, could be allocated to free up funds for education, poor income areas, or marijuana research to find out of its true effects. According to the Connecticut Law Review, enforcement represents an effort to reduce supply of illegal drugs, whereas education and prevention programs are directed at reducing the demand. In 2007, the federal government spent twice as much on enforcement than education and prevention. The DEA's mission is not succeeding in that neither supply nor demand for marijuana is being reduced in proportion to the money being spent. So as we continue to spend more money on prohibiting this drug, it's becoming more and more expensive and less effective. My second point would make it safer to purchase. There'd be no more drug dealers, stranger meetings, anything like that. Instead, one would be able to buy from a legitimate business such as a dispensary. Business conflicts could be dealt with by a judicial system instead of perhaps violent or retaliatory acts. It would make it less profitable to drug cartels and drug organizations. Bill Piper, National Affairs Director of the Drug Policy Alliance, quoted, "If we could take tens of millions of dollars from cartels, will they still make money? Yes, but it's $20 million less per year for bribes and weapons. Drug cartels would have one less drug to profit from. It would drive down their profit margin. So for example, let's say at your work you get your hours cut. Could you still afford the things you might buy on a daily basis? Sure. But would you probably have to think twice? Probably. Not to downplay the cartels, but that's probably what they would be thinking. Alright, moving on to my second point. Legalizing marijuana would be good for the economy. It would create new jobs and new career fields. Since it's such an easily grown product, it will let people have a chance for entrepreneurial positions, such as opening their own dispensaries, growing it as a cash crop, or making the items need to smoke or ingest it. It would also open positions in perhaps the medical and science field to better research marijuana and understand its true effects. It would also be easily regulated and taxed by the government. According to the Marijuana Control, Regulation and Education Act, a bill proposed in February 2009 amid California's budget crisis, a tax on marijuana could bring in up to $1 billion in tax revenue. That's in California alone. If we go back to the first statistic I brought up, that was $14 billion. And so we could get $1 billion in new tax revenue per year from those $14 billion. It will no longer only profit drug dealers, but it will also allow states to have an extra source of income, which they could allocate however they like. Marijuana prohibition has proven to be very expensive and ineffective. One major concern that a lot of opposition, those who oppose legalizing marijuana have, is that the legalization of marijuana would increase consumption and in turn harm our society. To quote Bill Piper, the man I mentioned earlier, noted that in 2005, 378 billion cigarettes were sold, and that's the lowest since 1951. when the nation was half its size. As people found out its harmful effects, the number of people who smoked cigarettes plummeted, and you never had to arrest a single person. This strongly suggests that regulation is a lot more effective than prohibition.
All right, Chris, you state the proposition very clearly. There's a very good setup or preview of what the main points are going to be. It sounds like there are two main points. When you do get to the body of the speech, though, it sounds like there are 3 points, and you labeled the second one as the second one twice, so that was a little confusing. Background information on the subject was okay. I think it probably could have come before the proposition so that it would be drawing us in a little bit more, making us interested in it, as opposed to, here's the subject, now let me explain why you ought to listen to it. So I think you want to reverse that a little. On the evidence, I thought that you started off pretty well. You had some good, excuse me, you had some factual data on the money that we spend on prohibition and what the ratios are. There's some analogy that you're making here, some application that you're making to whether or not it's effective at those particular levels. I think that needed a little more development, and there needed to be some evidence on those particular points. When you get to the potential benefits of legalization, you've got a long list of those benefits, but the only one that you provide any backup for, any evidence to support, is the tax revenue, and so we've got a $1 billion revenue stream. That's the main thing. Everything else is kind of asserted. You've got some hypothetical things. Oh, maybe people can create their own farms, or create their own dispensaries, or package their marijuana, or make T-shirts and give them away. I don't know what all the things are that you listed, but those are all hypothetical examples at best, and I think that if you had any comparison to another marketplace where this had happened, and you could maybe apply it to maybe some other product, that would be useful. You're trying to make an application on your rebuttal argument to cigarettes, so maybe we ought to be doing something like that. That might be another product where you can make such a comparison. Like I said, I thought your internal signposting, except for the one misunderstanding on what the numbering was pretty clear. You did cite the quotes that you were giving pretty consistently. I just think you needed a little bit more information on a couple of those points. You respond to the rebuttal argument. I'm not sure that the cigarette analogy on that issue is as strong as it could be. It's not explained very clearly. What the impact would be on consumption. Basically, it sounds like you're saying, if we're stupid enough to start consuming it, then we'll learn how stupid it is and we'll start not consuming it. However, it's at its lowest level now, but how many people are using cigarettes still? See, that's one of those things where I'm not sure that that's the strongest argument to make there. All right, thank you.